Well, guys, it happened. I triggered a very arrogant and quite possible narcissistic critic. How did this happen, you might ask? I've been posting shorts almost daily, and on just about every single one of them, I get dumb critics. But this one critic really stands out. He is a doozy. Last month, I posted a short of an Uber driver illegally stopping in the middle of a busy main street to let passengers out.
So fucking rude. He could have pulled over up here.
All I did was go around him and honk. There was nothing more to it than that. And that clip was recorded back in 2017-ish, but I posted this short last month. Important side note, if you want to see the entirety of this fierce comment battle, I've posted a link down in the description to the short where this massive argument takes place. After posting that short, I get this comment. Most entitled attitude of a driver ever. Except he's not talking about the Uber driver, he's talking about me. Then he continues, you'd probably run someone over for jaywalking. Okay, what does jaywalking have to do with this situation? And how am I the entitled one? Isn't the Uber driver the entitled one? He's the one choosing to break the law, and the one choosing to disrupt the flow of traffic. So I don't see how that makes me the entitled one. Right off the bat, my critic is already demonstrating that he's not particularly bright. His logic is nonsensical. So who is this critic? In the comment thread, his username just appears as a jumble of numbers and letters thanks to YouTube's strange system. But if we go to his YouTube page, his username is actually Mushroom Man, so that's what we'll call him. Anyway, things take an interesting turn as Mushroom Man starts in with false accusations and continues his illogical nonsense and his desperation to make me look like the bad guy. His first false accusation is when he begins accusing my other viewers of reporting his comments. I saw no evidence for that, and I certainly didn't report any of his comments. Backing up slightly, one of our fans destroys his argument. Mushroom Man comes back with, your entire comment is basically that drivers shouldn't have to be as aware as pedestrians. Well, DD 1996 never said that, nor implied that. But things get more interesting. I had replied to his original comment with, wait, you're calling me entitled? I wasn't the one illegally blocking traffic. Your logic is backwards. Mushroom Man replies back, yes, you're an entitled prick who deleted comments that are right about you. Yet you still reply to them, like that's so fucking sad. And notice how he spelled out the wrong your. But he still hasn't explained how this video makes me entitled. And now he's accusing me of deleting his comments, which I didn't. DD 1996 explains to Mushroom Man the concept about switching the comments filter from the default top comments to newest first so that all comments are visible. If top comments is left on by default, half of the replies are hidden by YouTube's weird algorithm. But Mushroom Man can't seem to grasp this simple concept and continues believing that his comments got deleted. He clings to that conspiracy theory. Another one of our loyal viewers chimes in and destroys Mushroom Man's logic. And this was my favorite part of what he said to Mushroom Man. Wipe the Doritos powder off your fingers, walk out of your mom's basement, and go outside and touch grass. That's a good one. To which Mushroom Man replies with utter absurdity. Camera did not just go around him and honk. He turned his camera on, stopped, bitched about some idiot parked on the road, sat there for a bit while honking, then went around. There's so much stupidity to unpack in just those two sentences. First of all, when he said I turned my camera on to record that incident, it proves he knows nothing about how dashcams work. What he fails to understand is that dashcams turn on and start recording automatically when the vehicle is first turned on. But yet, he thinks I drive around and only turn the camera on when something is about to happen. As you can see at the start of this clip, it's not even obvious yet that the Uber driver is going to stop. So how could I have even known this was going to happen? The premise of his argument is completely illogical. As his accusation continues in that sentence when he says I stopped, bitched about some idiot parked on the road, sat there for a bit while honking, then went around, you can see it didn't actually happen that way at all. I never stopped, and I certainly didn't sit there for a bit while honking. I kept moving the whole time, went around him while I honked, then I bitched about it after the fact. But he just had to spin it in a far more dramatic way. I don't know if he's too stupid to interpret a video correctly, or if he purposefully mischaracterized what happened. Either way, he got it really wrong, and he's basing much of his criticism on a vastly inaccurate representation of the events. But remember this part where he claims I stopped. This is going to be important later because he's going to completely and persistently deny that he ever said that. And this argument gets so much deeper as his confidently incorrect attitude continues. As we examine Mushroom Man's comments, you'll see he's quite angry and bitter, and that observation will be important too as we get further into this. Next, he continues accusing me of deleting his comments, which again, never happened, and then ridiculously keeps embellishing to make me look like the bad guy. Mushroom Man says, "And yes, you're the entitled prick that saw somebody using their hazards, coming to a complete stop on the road, and instead of simply avoiding them, you decided to honk, accelerate faster, and get closer to them when you noticed it." Once again using the wrong your. It's YOU''RE as a contraction for you and R. He keeps incorrectly using the possessive form of your, but enough of this grammar lesson. He still can't articulate how I'm supposedly entitled. No surprise because he has no valid argument. Then criticizes me for honking while going around the Uber driver instead of going around the Uber driver without honking. Why does this trigger him so much? It's just a horn. But then, why does his accusation include accelerating faster and getting closer to them? After slowing down to assess the situation, of course I would have to accelerate to get back up to speed. I can't resume my speed without accelerating. You have to speed up in order to go faster. Isn't that an unbreakable law of physics? I'd like to ask him in person how I'm supposed to get back to the speed I was at after having slowed down without accelerating. He must be from an alternate universe where going faster doesn't require speeding up. That one left me scratching my head. But then this part too, where he calls me out for getting closer to them. So tell me this, if I started out behind the Uber driver at a particular following distance, how can I possibly go around him without getting closer to him? It's not like there was an abundance of extra space. Maybe he missed the fact that there were cars in the oncoming lane? Was I supposed to go all the way over to the complete opposite side of the road and magically drive through those oncoming cars to get around the Uber driver? By now, his comments have convinced me that we're living in an idiocracy. He's demonstrated that he's completely incompetent at forming logical opinions. Mushroom Man continues, "You made the situation worse than it had to be by driving like an asshole." Okay, so the Uber driver didn't make that situation worse by choosing to illegally obstruct the normal flow of traffic? And the Uber driver wasn't being an asshole by deliberately ignoring the basic rules of the road and traffic etiquette? I was simply responding to a situation the Uber driver caused all by himself. Is it really rude to honk? Well, I can tell you that it's rude to block traffic, and I think a honk is a reasonable reaction to a traffic blocker. Another one of our viewers who frequently shows up when a persistent critic won't admit they're wrong, comes in and tells it like it is. Weather Time-Lapse Videos says to Mushroom Man, "You're unhinged, get professional help." And then Weather Time-Lapse Videos goes on to debunk Mushroom Man's ridiculously dumb argument about jaywalkers. Then he ends the comment with, "All he did was toot the horn, you need to get a grip." Couldn't have said it better myself. Mushroom Man's comments continue getting angrier as he uses the R word and goes heavy with the insults and cursing in his tirades. And then, in narcissistic fashion, he says, "It doesn't change the fact that I'm actually right." Well, I've got news for him. Declaring that you're right doesn't make you right. On top of the fact that he's been consistently wrong about everything, his claiming that his assessments are correct is downright delusional. Here's where Mushroom Man becomes a major hypocrite. He says, "I'm criticizing you for getting angry and annoyed." Okay, so let me get this straight. It's acceptable for him to get angry and annoyed, but it's not acceptable for anyone else to? So apparently I'm not allowed to get annoyed at drivers doing things they're not supposed to do, according to him. And he's getting angry in the process of preaching that it's immoral to be angry. Come on, practice what you preach. He's also assuming that I was angry at the Uber driver. The truth is, I was merely annoyed. But it wasn't full-on anger like he's assuming it is. And he's getting far, far angrier than I ever did in that video clip. Mushroom Man continues with, "That doesn't mean you should act like a prick in your little camera car and upload vids of people making any kind of traffic violations whatsoever." Huh? He calls me a prick, but I'm not the one committing traffic violations. And why on earth does he want to protect people committing traffic violations from being posted online? Especially since he even admits the Uber driver was a fool. Then he says, "Maybe hold yourself up to the same scrutiny, but I know you don't." Alright, he must be new here because I do show my own mistakes and I do own up to them.
Oh, shit. Thought he was turning.
He then says, people like you just whine and complain when things aren't fair. But isn't that what he's doing? He's literally whining and complaining about me whining and complaining because he thinks it's unfair that I post videos of bad drivers. Here, Mushroom Man is replying to one of my viewers who earlier called him out. This is where Mushroom Man denies accusing me of stopping. He says, when did I say he stopped? Well, let's look back at his earlier comment, shall we? Remember when he said, camera did not just go around him and honk. He turned his camera on, stopped, bitched about some idiot parked on the road, sat there for a bit while honking, then went around. He's denying that he ever said something that he very clearly and unmistakably said. Unbelievable. And now yet another false accusation. Here he accuses me of going over the speed limit while passing a stationary car. He declares this without any proof whatsoever, so I told him this. Let's see your proof. Show me what my precise speed was in relation to the speed limit there. He conveniently ignores my request for a while, but he does eventually address it later on, but predictably with more bullshit. So we'll come back to that a little later. In the meantime, he's continuing to accuse everyone of reporting and deleting his comments. And as far as I know, that didn't happen. But YouTube does have a system that automatically deletes comments on its own that violate their rules according to their algorithm, which in my experience doesn't always work like it's supposed to. Anyway, I took it upon myself to write a lengthy reply where I debunked a bunch of his individual arguments. And as you might expect from someone who is willfully ignorant, he says, I'm not reading your essay, bro. Well, that's probably for the better that he didn't read it because his ego would have gotten bruised, seeing as each of his arguments got shot down in flames. When someone's debunking you, it's an ego protective mechanism to just bury your head in the sand and not face it. He comes back to his false accusation that I exceeded the speed limit, but still without addressing my request, when he says, you know for a fact you went over the speed limit and accelerated around him faster than you should have. And then he continues, you're still a shit stain of a human. So apparently I'm a shit stain for going around the blocking Uber driver, doing a short honk, and accelerating back up to my normal pace and then posting this online. But the Uber driver who was illegally disrupting traffic is not a shit stain. Interesting backwards logic there. But truth be told, I honestly wouldn't label the Uber driver a shit stain, because that violation doesn't make him a terrible person in general, because shit stain of a human is a very harsh label that I would only reserve for someone bad, like a thug, rapist, or murderer. Idiot or inconsiderate drivers, on the other hand, I would merely just label as being an idiot, but certainly not shit stain of a person. I'm just pointing out his backwards logic, that if you're going to call someone a shit stain, it should be the person who broke the rules, not the one who didn't. So now Mushroom Man is responding to another viewer by telling him or her, I'm very sorry you have no basis to argue with me. Oh, the irony. Considering that nearly everything Mushroom Man said is wrong, he's the one who has no basis to argue with us. And then here he is, still denying that he ever claimed I stopped, where he says, so you have to resort to the most cherry-picked argument ever. I think he meant to spell out sat, not say. So he says, sat there and honked does not literally mean he sat still there and honked. Well, yeah, it actually does mean that. And he did spell literally wrong, but whatever. So do you see what he's doing? He's pretending like his words meant something else, and he's backtracking. One more time, let's look at his original comment about me supposedly stopping. He said that I turned my camera on, stopped, those are his words, you see him right there, sat there for a bit while honking. Is Mushroom Man forgetting what he said and can't keep his accusations straight? Or is he trying to gaslight everyone? My other viewer saw what was happening and had called him out for denying what he said, and rightfully pointed out that Mushroom Man was now backtracking. And Mushroom Man responds to that with, and talk about backtracking, LMAOO. Your attempt at accusing me of backtracking to dismiss my entire point is pretty sad, especially given the fact that you guys are backtracking to avoid my points that you know are correct. Wow, so he's deflecting, parroting back, and turning it right back on everyone calling him out. This is exactly what narcissists do. They'll deflect, and they'll just turn it right back on you, even though you have proven the narcissist wrong. Mushroom Man was clearly backtracking and now pretending he didn't say what he indeed said. His comment history proves it all on its own, that he is either forgetful or lying about what he said. And once again, still stuck on believing his comments were removed. I can see that my comments were reported and removed. He just does not understand how YouTube works and that he needs to sort comments by newest first, which my viewers and me have pointed out to him numerous times, and he just isn't getting it. And here, Mushroom Man finally addresses our requests to prove his accusation that I exceeded the speed limit, but of course he responded with more biased bullshit. He says, when he clearly went over 15. If you ask me how I know that road is a 15 zone, you either never gone outside or been to a city. Because earlier we had asked him, well, if I was speeding and exceeding the speed limit, then what's the speed limit there? Because if you don't know the speed limit, then you can't say that I was speeding. So basically he claims that the road I was on has a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, but he has no proof of that. He just made that up. Or he just thinks it's true. He seems to think that all cities have a blanket 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is not true. The blanket speed limit in every city I've been to is typically 25 miles per hour, and I'm not talking about some of the larger arterial roads. He doesn't even know what city this clip was recorded in, but yet he claims to know beyond a doubt that it's 15. The fact is, it's 25 on that street, and I'll prove it. So here we are, driving down the same street where this incident took place, and we're driving toward that same spot in the video. Here's a 25 mile per hour speed limit sign. If we continue down the street toward the spot where the Uber driver illegally stopped, you won't see any other speed limit sign, which means the 25 mile per hour speed limit set by that sign is effective until the next speed limit sign. And here we are at the spot where I went around the Uber driver. Since there is no other speed limit sign between that 25 mile per hour sign and where this Uber driver was, the speed limit cannot possibly be anything else other than 25. That was literally the only speed limit sign up to where the Uber driver was. But I'm sure Mushroom Man would find a way to deny this proof too. So for good measure, here's more proof in the form of a city traffic ordinance where this video took place that says, the prima facie speed limit on all public streets of the city is declared to be 25 miles per hour, and there's nothing in that chapter that declares otherwise about that particular roadway. So I'm gonna end the video here. There's been quite a bit more going on in that thread since I made these screenshots. In fact, he still thinks we're all deleting his comments. It finally got to a point where I had to upload a video and tag him in it, where I'm recording the computer screen with my phone, showing him how to properly sort comments so that they would all be visible. I didn't delete any of your comments. You have to sort comments by newest first. We have told you this over and over again, and you can't seem to wrap your head around simple instructions. So if you want to see how much more ridiculous he's getting, you'll have to go to the link in the description. Then sort comments by newest first, though I might end up making that setting by default on that video so that you don't have to do that. And then find the comment thread that I'm talking about here. My viewers are likely to battle with him for quite some time, so this is still a developing story. But I probably won't make another video about it, unless a lot more time goes by and if it's still raging on by then. Otherwise, in the near term, stay tuned for our next Bad Driver compilation video. Take care, guys.